Primero quisiera, antes de hablar, decir unas palabras. Algunas palabras que me parecen muy importantes sobre lo que estamos haciendo desde hace 6 años con los dos amigotes, como yo los llamo, Marc Battier y Lee Landi, que es esta idea de promover el estudio de la música electroacústica, no solamente su realización o no discutir de problemas técnicos, que por supuesto están siempre presentes, pero crear un lugar, un foco de reflexión sobre qué significa esta música, cómo se la debe pensar, cómo se la puede estudiar, qué significa el análisis, o sea, toda una serie de conceptos que se han quedado en cierto modo huérfanos por la inmensa novedad que plantea el hecho de trabajar la estructura sonora como medio esencial de la composición musical. Ya en nuestro, siempre me pierdo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sexta conferencia. Esta conferencia ha tenido un éxito que va mucho más allá de lo que jamás imaginamos, es decir, la creación, la generación de una comunidad internacional que se dedica al estudio de la música electroacústica. Quizás un hecho totalmente interesante esta noche en esta conferencia es señalar que sobre los 44 presentaciones que fueron aceptadas, 16 provienen de América Latina, solo 10 provienen de Europa y el resto del resto del mundo, China, Australia, etcétera, etcétera, etcétera. O sea que quizás la idea de que hayamos hecho germinar no un pensamiento, sino un lugar de intercambio, de reflexión, pienso que hoy podemos sentirnos parcialmente satisfechos. Seguiremos en el futuro, año tras año, organizamos en un país, en una localidad distinta esta conferencia, y año tras año intentamos penetrar en justamente este desafío, como decía Pierre Schaeffer, que decía que entender el misterio de la música es penetrar el misterio del hombre. I arrived to this country, my country, 4 days ago. When arriving at the airport, I was supposed to be expected by somebody that was going to take me into Buenos Aires. And it's a very always odd situation in which you are looking for a piece of paper with your name, and while reading the papers, I was very surprised to find a paper expecting Roland Schaeffer. So that's the true part of the story. The imaginary part of the story is that I approached the man and I told him, I think there's a mistake. You should be waiting for Pierre, and he will not come. So I think it's under this very good omen that we initiate our conference this year, because we are under the highest possible protection from Pierre Schaeffer. And I also, before starting again, I must remind you that next year will be the 100th anniversary of his birth. Thank you. And that we are planning quite a big event in November 2010 in Paris, so you're all expected there. I'll take your names next year. Today I'm going to talk about all the possible themes from Schaeffer, musique concrète, morphologie, typologie, etc., etc. I'm not going to talk about nothing of that. First, I start talking a little bit of myself. This is what composers like a lot to do. And then I'll talk about what it represents, what it is being a composer today. in a moving world. So it's like some ideas that I would like to share with composers, and mainly with young composers. So that is how I may define myself. Of course, I put the composer as with a big font. Composer when I have time. I'll come back to that. So these are the different kinds of music I may do, I may call. I never call the work electronic music. These are my actual positions. I had 3 last year, I have 4 now. Head of Research, Director of the Groupe de Recherche Musicale. We had a wonderful year last year because we celebrated our 50th anniversary. And the INA, which is our main institution, is now launching a university around images and media, and I'm co-director of this university. I didn't ask for that, but things come. And then I'm highly concerned by European research projects, which I find quite pleasant and amusing as an activity. But this has nothing to do with music. It's all related to archives, preservation, keeping our heritage alive for tomorrow. I was born here in this country with a very complex genealogy. So you may see Italy, France, German, England, US. And on my mother's side and on my father's side, there's one country that appears twice, which is France, Béarn and Savoie. This is why I went to live to France. I have of all the possible choices. But I'm, as I say, underneath a pure Argentinian breed, because that's how most of us are here. That's how most of us learn in school to have the most incredible names beside ours, and to know people that have Polish, Russian, German, French, English, Spanish, etc., origins, and of course, local origins. My wife has deeply rooted Argentinian blood from the 16th century, and in this way create a culture which is a very rich mixture of origins, ideas, and cultures. So I left Argentina in 1977. I've lived more in France than in Argentina by now. And I have a certain tendency to travel a lot for music, but a lot more for archives and archives research problems. I put these 2 photographs, one the composer, the serious side, contemplating the future, and the other underneath a more playing style photograph to show that I can have some humor eventually. An interesting way to receive all our foreign friends that are here today, I think, was the round table we had before this, in which you could have witnessed the interest that electroacoustic music has in this country, and its long history, and how sensible the discussions may come just by naming the thing and asking a series of very simple questions. So you haven't come to a neutral country, and I think that is very interesting for all that's going to happen in the next days. I have research activities in different domains. Sound representation, I really like that. I find it very highly related to musical analysis. Thank you. Mainly finding efficient ways to talk about music, which is one of the main things of our Congress. Then I work a lot in all the sound processing. You all may have heard about GRM tools. The image is a little bit stretched just to fit. And this is some of my research activities in which I'm involved. So what can we get out of this rotten record, if there's still any possible life for it? I've composed a lot. Here's a certain, and this is the definition I taught to my daughter when in school. She was asked, what does your father do? He's a musician, so what does he play? He doesn't play any instrument, so he's a conductor. No, he makes music. What kinds of music does he do? So I invented this definition, which I find quite appropriate to the way I think and I imagine music. All of my musical background was made in this country, where you have had the most extraordinary teachers. Many of them came from Europe, installed here after or before the Second World War, and they brought their knowledge, their traditions, their know-how, and have been sharing them for several generations to many students like myself, which initially wanted to be musicians and then discovered that being a musician could involve doing other things. This is just a small thanks to my friend Francisco Kröpfel, with which I studied for a certain number of months. But as all teachers, he had the good capacity to open horizons and show you possible other ways.